there's so many products out there. So just because you pitch me doesn't mean I will write about it. Give me an opportunity to like test it out or something like that.
What's up, everyone? I'm so excited to have the one and only Emily Cieslak on our show. She covers all things fashion and commerce. So if you are thinking of pitching for a product guide or maybe something that's seasonal, this episode is for you. So a little bit about Emily. She has worked on all sides of the fashion industry, and she's written for some of the top tier outlets that you might have heard of called Birdie, Real Simple Magazine, The Knot, the Philadelphia Citizen, and currently she is a commerce editor at In Style magazine. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, we interview lots of really amazing writers and journalists. Can you just tell us what does it mean to be a commerce editor?
Yeah, so on the commerce team, we focus on writing buying guides for different products. So we look at SEO and like what are, consumers Googling and shopping for online. And so we write roundups like I write about like best jeans or best like sandals, white sneakers. And so we call these like evergreen roundups because they're things that people will buy again and again throughout the year. It's not just like only for like 1 month or something. And so we, constantly like look back and update if we feel like there's a better product out there or like with fashion, a lot of times things can go out of stock. So we're making sure that we have like the best product selection. And we also include like expert insights, like how do you use this product? How do you style this type of outfit? And so we really like, it's kind of like a service article. Like we want to help the readers find the best item and know how to use it too.
Oh, so many good things that you put in there. We, on our podcast and also in my PR starter pack community, we not only have people who make apparel, but we also have experts, right? Like dermatologists and things like that. So I love what you said about finding the experts. So before we go into actually how you find these roundups, can you give me an example of just how many opportunities there are? Like how many articles do you actually publish about, a certain type of product or apparel?
Yeah, so like right now we're working on a lot of like summer related beauty or fashion articles. So like a lot of swimsuit roundups, cover ups, sandals, like beach bags. I wrote something about bucket hats. So we do both like kind of like those staple pieces like that you are always wearing, but also like bucket hats is more of like a trend driven article. But we, looking on search, we saw that enough people are searching for it and buying it. So it was like a worthwhile investment to like write about that.
I love that you use like SEO because that's something I also tell my audience too is like think about what's trending right now. So how can people like get because obviously we don't know your editorial calendar. I have no idea what you're going to publish, but how can I like prepare myself for getting my little tiny apparel brand to get featured?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we kind of work ahead. Like, so I'm not writing about winter or fashion yet, but I feel like sometimes I got articles for like a bucket hat and I already wrote that article. So I would say maybe like 1 or 2 months ahead and start thinking about like what type of roundups, yeah, these sites might be writing about and like pitching them and maybe offering to send them like a sample of the product for them to like try out themselves. And like, if they like it, they might recommend it. I think, sometimes I get pitches and it's like something that like right now it's not relevant, but maybe in a few months I'll write about it or I could write about it later.
So tell me a little bit about like peeking inside of your mailbox, right? I interviewed someone from Business Insider and she has a really organized way of actually putting like labels on the emails. Now, as a small business owner, they might think, "Oh my God, like this person hates me, they're not responding." But are you actually like reading the emails and filing it away for later?
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's like we get so many pitches, so we can't respond to every like each and every single one, and that doesn't mean we yeah like that we don't open them and we don't read them. Yeah, I usually like I kind of have like a pitch folder and like an expert folder, and yeah, I keep a lot of things for future instances because especially like if someone's like, oh, like we have a dermatologist you could talk to, I might not be writing about a beauty topic right now, but then like a few weeks later I might need to, so I might like go back and see who like I've got pitches from and like what topics they are experts in. And yeah, like I mean, it's hard. Like I feel like we do get so many pitches, so it's hard for us to always respond and like it's like a lot of different factors being at play.
Yeah, but I love that you said you never know when it's going to come in handy. So I tell my
Right.
audience
Yeah.
to keep pitching.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And it's like, yeah, you sometimes I don't even know, like, oh, I didn't know I'm going to write about like bucket hats. Like, and now I'm like, oh, wait, I can go back and see. I try not to like delete those emails because you never know.
Yeah, I love that. So you do the product roundup. That is like the holy grail. I feel like for so many of my founders, they would love to be in a product found a roundup, not only just to get in front of their customers, but to do that with credibility, right? So you've already said that there are so many opportunities all year round. Definitely pitch early. Another question is, you get so many pitches. So can you just very kind of macro broad strokes? What do all of the great pitches have in common, and what do all of the awful pitches have in common?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest mistake is not knowing like the publication they write for and what they write about. Like I still get pitches that are so like unrelated to what I write about. Like sometimes it's not a product or sometimes it's a product I just don't write about. Like sometimes I get I don't know, I don't want to like call anyone out, but like it's just like it's not fashion, it's not beauty related, and I've never even written about that category, and so it just makes you feel like you obviously did not research me. And I also think like even within that, it's like there's so many different types of like fashion and beauty articles. So yeah, like I write about commerce, so I'm not really writing about like new like fashion news or fashion events or like a celebrity sighting. So that stuff is still like important, and like I might read it and be like, oh, this is good to know, like J Lo wore this yesterday, but I'm not the one that's going to cover that. So again, it's like know who this person is, like what do they write about, and what type of articles they write about. Um, and yeah, I think sometimes I get pitches for products where it feels like very one sided, where they just like they pitch you the product and they think you'll write about it, and it's sort of like nothing being, it's kind of like a two-way street. Like, what am I getting out of this? And yeah, it's just like if you, I'm, there's so many products out there. So just because you pitch me doesn't mean I will write about it. You kind of have to, or give me an opportunity to like test it out or something like that.
Yeah, I love what you said. It's a two-way street because I always do think that if you can cold pitch anyone, you're planting the seeds of like cultivating a really important relationship, right? So let's get to that. How can someone be of service for you when they are selling a product?
Yeah, so I think, I really like talking to experts, and that's like I think more and more magazines are focusing on that too, is like including like stylists and dermatologists. So sometimes if a company pitches me and they're like, we have this product, but you could also talk to the founder about like jewelry in general or something like that. Like that's helpful for me. And yeah, sometimes like I then reach out and I'm like, oh, I can't promise I'll write about this specific product, but if I could speak with your founder or whoever I think might be useful, like that's a great way, I think, to like build a relationship.
Yeah, what if it's just let's say if I make a swimsuit, so many swimsuits out there, how can I make my pitch relevant, unique? Is it about the uniqueness? Is it about the season? Like how where do I even start?
Yeah, I think there's so many products out there, and I think as consumers we're like overwhelmed, and I think consumers are just more picky about what they buy now. So I think it's like kind of setting like describing what about your product sets it apart. And I also think it's a lot about now like quality and inclusivity. So when we're writing these roundups, we want to include products that people from like all sizes can wear. So, if a product is only available from like small to extra large, we might not like include it, or it might not be the like the best overall product, because we know that it's like cutting out a big portion of consumers. And yeah, we want to stand for, products and brands that really like champion that too. So yeah, I think being able to kind of speak to those differences, like what about your product is special.
Yeah, I love the inclusivity part. So should let's say if I back to the swimwear example,
Mhm.
should I just come out and say, we are unique because we offer all of these sizes, right? Like for example, like Rihanna,
Yeah.
like her foundation has like, so many different shades.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's a great factor. And like we often like in beauty articles, we actually call that out sometimes, like, yeah, like in the foundation roundup, like how many shades there are. So like if there's only like, I don't know, like 10 shades, like we also are like that kind of looks bad. Like we don't know, like our editor might be like, I don't want you to include this.
Yeah. I love what you said about inclusivity. That's also what we're about. As you know, most of my founders are women of color. Another thing about fashion,
Yeah.
when I think about a fashion pitch, I think about sustainability. You might think, like, I don't know, I feel like sustainability has already been covered so many times. So, how can we still make sustainability relevant and fresh and something you'd care about?
Yeah, no, I think that is a big important factor. Like, and that's like a great way to stand out as a brand because, like, for instance, like with workout clothes, I feel like, yeah, there's so many different brands of leggings and sports bras, but some of the ones that are getting a lot of attention are the ones that have like either recycled materials or like materials made from like water bottles and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think like it's great to call that out. And that's sometimes like that's a category we have is like best recycled product or best sustainable. So yeah, I think even thinking about that, like maybe Google like, if you sell swimsuits, like Google best swimsuits and see like what magazines, how do they write about them? Like what categories do they list? Like and see like where your product might fit in.
Right, because sustainability is it's such a macro topic, right? So how can we bring something new to it? So for example, can you give me an example of like obviously most fashion now should be sustainable. What are some of the unique angles within sustainability that you're looking out for that kind of piques your interest?
Yeah, I feel like kind of like going to beauty, I think there's a lot of different terms when it comes to like clean beauty. There's like vegan and cruelty free, or like the packaging might be the sustainable part of a beauty item. And so, yeah, like that's kind of like it's, I think we're trying to step away from just a blanket term, but kind of see like, is this like sustainable packaging? Is that the thing that? So there's like different roundups about that. And then with fashion, yeah, it's like maybe, some products also have a good program where you can recycle the item or you could bring it back and get like a discount and like, be able to buy something else. So that's like another angle of like like what in terms of sustainability, like what is it? Because I think some consumers like maybe they don't really are looking, having something recycled, like made from recycled materials is great, but maybe they want to buy something that was like a vintage piece. Like, people have different values and again with like the same as like with beauty is like some people value cruelty free over vegan. Like those are actually like kind of like two different things. So yeah, it's thinking about like what I guess like who are you targeting with your product? What type
Yeah.
of consumer?
So what about layering the levels of uniqueness, if you will, right? Because unique as a word is so subjective, right? One person's
Yeah.
so what if it's something that say, let's say zero waste soap brand, not so unique in the sense that there's a lot of zero waste products, but what if the founder story is interesting? Or what if they donate to an interesting charity? Could that be a bullet point in the pitch as well?
Yeah, no, I think that definitely helps. And like, yeah, I think like we kind of think of it like what matters to like a consumer and like what is going to cause them to purchase something over something else. So yeah, like, we try to also include like a specific number of like brands, yeah, like from like women owned brands or like black owned brands. So that's another great aspect, and we try to kind of think about the overall picture. And yeah, like if we know we're promoting products that actually are sustainable or like give back, like that speaks like well on everyone.
Yeah, I love that. So, I teach a pitching method in my PR masterclass, but if you were to just like come on stage and kind of teach my audience what a really good pitch would be like, very simple. So, like, what would the subject line say? What would the email look like? Can you kind of just run me through the structure of like what would be like a good pitch?
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically for me, like as a commerce editor, writer, like I look a lot at like in the subject, like what is this product? Like, is it, yeah, like sunscreen or is it a swimsuit? So I feel like having a very long subject that's not very direct can be like misleading, and just like I might not open that pitch. So I think it's better to be more simple and like direct in your subject. Like you could say like, I don't know, like new swimsuit line launches, or like, don't try to hide like what are you writing about specifically.
So
And then
so
I
can it be like this sustainable swimwear line is from made from algae or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Like I think I'll be like, oh, sustainable swimwear. Like if I'm writing about swimwear or something, I may be like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, like that's a cool one to look at. And then I think with the pitch, like, you want it. It's like a balance between not being too long that the person can't read all of it, but also you obviously you need some information. So yeah, and I think like links to like the founder page and links to the website, like links to where you can buy this product. Like, is it only sold on your website, or do you sell it like at Nordstrom or Amazon? Um, yeah, like don't, I guess like just fill it up with the essential information, and don't, because like we don't read all of it if it's very long, right?
Yeah. So like what for example, I always say don't put your unpublished autobiography on there. I don't want to
Right.
know
Yeah.
I don't want to know when
Yeah.
you met your founder.
Yeah, like you can briefly mention like, oh, like, coming from like the healthcare industry, like so and so started this brand, like whatever. But yeah, like I don't need the full bio. Like I can always go to the website and click on that if I want that information.
Yeah. I always like them to start off with relevance. So like since we are in swimwear season or since travel is back,
Yeah.
do you think leading with that is good?
Yeah, that really helps. And maybe also if there was like some kind of event like I don't know, like the Grammys. I don't know, it's like something kind of like a tie-in. Yeah, but that does help. I think just like, yeah, like don't try to, but it's like, yeah, don't try to like hide the main part of your pitch either. Like, maybe have one sentence that's kind of like leading into it, but then get into the
Mm.
real like body of
So
it.
so can the sentence be like this swimwear line is perfect for this season because one, two, three.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think that kind of reminds me, yeah, like I think also thinking about like in terms of fashion, like different body types. And so I get pitches like where it's like, this is a good bra for like at large cups or small cups. And that's also another thing that can distinguish you from like other brands and products.
Yeah. So I think another problem that a lot of founders have is they have a wide range of products. So how do they know how much to stuff into one pitch? Should they focus
Yeah.
on one thing like their bestseller or talk about everything they have?
Yeah. I think it's good to be specific and maybe focus on that one thing you really want to pitch. And like, you can always say like let's say you're pitching like a bra, and you're like, we have this, like this is the main product, but you can also say like, and our collection also has like other like intimate items, like, so yeah, like you can let the person know there's more to it, but I would focus on whatever you think is like the strongest point or product you want to write about.
Yeah, I always say think about the season and then think about your
Yeah.
bestseller.
Yeah, and like what do you think is most likely for a brand or a magazine to write about, right?
Yeah, based on the
Be-
previous.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yeah, like looking at like what has this person written about before? Like what kind of format does their article like take? Like, where could you see your product like fitting in?
Mm. What about price point, where to find it, whether or not there's a sale coming up, and product photos? Where does that all go in the pitch?
Yeah, I think price point is important. Like we try to in our roundups ups have a range of price points. Like we usually have a best budget or value item. So that's something that's, a lower price point but still good quality, and also like a best splurge. So yeah, like, highlighting, if that's like a selling point of yours, like we offer this at a really low price, like I would definitely highlight that. And yeah, the part about like where is this available is really important too, because we're trying to think about like the consumer experience. So like, most people like they feel comfortable shopping on like Amazon or Nordstrom or websites that they are like familiar with and have a good like customer experience. So like there's free shipping or like free returns. And so if it's hard to find your product, or like, someone might not be like, they're not, I don't know, I've never shopped on this website before, that can be like a disadvantage. And also like stock is important. I don't think I mentioned that, but like if a product is almost out of stock, and if it's something that it doesn't seem like might come back, like we might not include it because, we don't want someone to read the article, click on it, and then not be able to buy it, right?
Mm. Okay, you've given us so much. What about the closing sentences? What is the best way? Should it be like, as your readers are looking for the best swimwear, I'm happy to send you a sample, or here is a link to high quality photos, or should they actually paste it in the body of the email?
Yeah, I think that's like a good part. I think like a lot of emails end that way, and that's like a good way to end it. And yeah, I might like reach out and be like, oh, like I'm not sure if I'll write about this, but I would love a sample, or speak to like your expert. And yeah, photos are good too. They're not like, I feel like, the most important thing I think about. And like, to be honest, like in our roundups, we just include like product images. We don't really like include like photo shoots, like stylized photos from brands. So that's not like at least for my type of like articles, that's not like a main consideration on what I think about.
Yeah. Are there any pros and cons to hyperlinking it instead of embedding it directly in the email?
Yeah, I think linking it sometimes, I think maybe include one or two images, but I think like if there's too many images, yeah, then the email gets really long, and you kind of don't want to scroll through everything. And maybe like I wouldn't put text under the image if it's like a lot of it, because then I might not even read that part.
Mm.
um, yeah, I think it's like if I'm interested, I will probably click on the link. If like maybe include one image or a couple, and then like I can click on it and see more of it.
Mm. So, a really important part of my pitching method, CPR, stands for
Yeah.
credibility. So, that's when they would mention if someone else wore something similar, or if they've been featured before, or if they're a bestseller. So, how much does that matter, and how much of that should they include in the pitch?
Yeah, I think that does matter. I think, like a celebrity tie-in, like this has been worn by these like models or whatever, is always good for like fashion articles. I think for beauty products, yeah, like being able to establish, like maybe you could say like this has won an award, like Allure bestseller or something like that. There's sometimes they say, oh, like it's an Amazon bestseller. I feel like that's a little bit less like powerful, just because there's so many Amazon bestsellers, and like you know, almost every product has 5-star reviews like somewhere. So it's like that's not always the biggest selling point. We do look at like reviews online, like what people are writing about the product, but that's not like our main source of like truth.
Yeah, because reviews can be fake, as we all know, right?
Yeah, right. And like there's always someone who like loves a product, but also someone who like hates it. So you have to take
Yeah.
it like with a grain of salt.
Exactly. So let's say the email is perfect. They listen to this podcast. They've gone and watched my PR masterclass. They send you the email. What is the usual timeline of like when you would respond to them? I always tell my audience to follow up, like after a week or 10 days. How do you feel about follow ups? And then how soon would you get back to them for either an interview or there's no interview involved?
Yeah, so I think a week is a good amount of time, because like, if you do it any sooner, it might just be like I didn't sometimes like I depending on like how timely the pitch is or like what I'm working on, I might respond to it like right away, or like, sometimes like on Fridays or Mondays, that's when I like go through my inbox and kind of see like reread things and be like, is there anything I missed? And yeah, I think a week is a good amount of time, because that might be like maybe I just missed it, or I kind of forgot to respond, and that can like bring it up. Or like I said, like sometimes something doesn't work right now, but later it will. So I feel like a week also gives you time for maybe like I got a new assignment and now I need to write about this. Um, yeah, and I think like maybe 1 to 2 follow-ups is good. I feel like any more than that is just like that probably means I'm not going to write about it, or at least not right now. And I think most editors don't take the time to like say no, like they're not going to reply. That's just like kind of like, they don't have time for that.
Yeah. So let's say you're interested. How would you respond? Do you need to get on the phone with someone, or what kind of research do you need to get that published?
Yeah, like, so are you talking about like an interview or just
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So let's
yeah.
say someone pitches you. What is required for it to be published?
Yeah, I like to, I'm open to do both like email interviews where I send them questions, and I give them usually my deadline, so they know like how fast they have to respond. Or sometimes I'm happy to do like a phone call or like a Zoom interview. Depending on like the story and like what questions I have. If it's like a sample request, yeah, I like to, kind of like tell them like, oh, I'd maybe want to try this product, and then they would hopefully like coordinate that. We can coordinate that together. Um, and yeah, I think like to also, it's like a lot of times it takes a while for an article to get published. So I can interview you, and like it's not that I'm not going to write the article anymore. It's just like with everything else going on, it might take a few weeks for you to see that like actually go online.
Yeah. I mean, if you're busy, so if they even get a response, that means they're doing pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. And that means like, yeah, I read their stuff and I'm like interested, right?
Yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about you've given us so many gems about the ins and outs of the pitching. For anyone that's listening, come back to this episode. It's literally like a masterclass on how to pitch a fashion commerce editor. Now let's talk about things they should not do that you see all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, like I said, is like pitching something that's just like not relevant. Like I'm not, it's funny. I once did an internship actually like at a showroom. So I was like kind of like the PR person. And I remember my boss was just like, email every editor you can, like the same pitch. And I think that's like a big mistake because, yeah, you're kind of wasting your time. And, it's like sometimes I just don't write about this topic, or it's not the type of article I write. So I feel like that's the biggest mistake, is like, trying to just email the same pitch to as many people as possible, and not really understanding like, every magazine is slightly different. It has like a different voice, a different tone, and like covers different products. So like just like know who you're pitching. And I think like quality over quantity, like, obviously you want to reach a lot of people, but you also don't want to just like generalize your pitch that someone might just be like, nope, this doesn't apply to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to spend hours crafting every pitch, but do your research. And it could be as
Yeah.
simple as in the first sentence, hey, since you covered this last year, right?
Yeah. And actually, like going off of that, like sometimes I get pitches like, let's say I wrote that bucket hat story. So like a week later, like after it's published, someone pitches me and is like, "Oh, I saw you wrote this article. I have a bucket hat. Maybe you could try it." Like I get like why they do that, and I think it is a smart move, but at the same time, at least for me, it's like I've already moved on to another topic. Like I'm not going to, like it's not the priority anymore, so I probably won't like respond and want to test your product. Maybe like in a year or like a few months when I'm updating the story, but like it's kind of like I've already moved on to a different topic.
Yeah. But at least they can ask, well, what are you covering, right? So then they can start a
Yeah,
conversation.
right. Or they could be like, like maybe I wrote an article about like work bags. Like I wrote an article about that. And they can be like, we also have other bags in case you're working on something else. Like, yeah, like that's a good tie in.
Yeah, I love that. It's seeing the world as a window of opportunity and repositioning it not as a rejection, but how can I turn this into a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
for sure.
really love that. Let's talk about gift guides. I know you don't really write about gift guides, but when I think of commerce, I think about holidays and kind of like Q4. So, is there any tips or anything interesting about pitching during Q4?
Yeah, that's like, yeah, all the sales are going on, all the gift guides. Yeah, I think it's somewhat similar. Like, think about what, like, what is this publication? What type of products do they write about? And I think, if you look at a lot of gift guides, they're kind of broken down into categories like this is the best gift for like an outdoorsy person, or like a book lover or something like that. So I think maybe thinking about your product and like, what if I was an editor, how would I write this, like what angle would I put on it, and maybe try to find publications that suit that, or like, would want to write about like, this is great for the like wine loving connoisseur. So yeah. And yeah, and again, it's the same thing, like price point, thinking about how easy it is to buy. Like, is it something that someone can add to their Amazon cart, or do they have to like go to a completely different website? So yeah, like all those different factors.
Can you tell me an example of a very small, bootstrapping, unknown, maybe a mompreneur who like pitched their product and you gave them a platform on InStyle and it completely changed their business?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good one. Like I I run through an article. This was for, I think, Real Simple. It was about like period panties. And so that's like, I feel like a smaller product category and there's lesser known brands. And so I think I got like a pitch from a brand that I didn't like really hear about before, but it was like just compelling and they offered to give me a sample. And so I tried it. And then I think I talked to my editor and she was like, yeah, like you could write a whole roundup about different like products like that. And so, yeah, I included it. And I mean, I haven't heard too much about the impact, but I think it definitely helped. And, since that was more of like a niche topic, I was like, yeah, I was kind of willing to try every product that like it was in that category.
Yeah, for I think for so many people, it's not just about the article; it's about what's possible for them, and them
Yeah.
believing that they deserve to be seen, heard, and valued. So that's why I do what I do, and I'm so glad that
Yeah,
you
that's
do what
great.
you do as well. Is there anything that's really piquing your interest right now, other than sustainability and inclusivity? What other trends are you seeing in fashion journalism, and kind of what's going on in the news?
Yeah, let's see. I feel like, consumers now like they really want practical items, so things that they can wear, both to work but also like on the weekends. And yeah, I think like that's a trend in itself is like how practical and versatile something is. And what else? Like I think yeah, like people just want stuff that stands for something. So like if a product is aligned with like a social cause or something like that, which is also important. And yeah, I think like, TikTok, social media is a constantly a source of inspiration. And I even sometimes look at that to find experts, like see like who posted like I search up like a term like bucket hats. Like actually that's how I found some sources was looking at like who tagged bucket hats and like what were they talking about within that category.
Yeah, in terms of SEO, I know before we got on here, you were talking about you actually look at trends not based on only what they pitch you, but also SEO keywords. So, would you
Yeah.
recommend every person listening who is doing something that's like e-commerce apparel to actually do that research themselves before pitching?
Oh yeah, I think that's like really helpful because it shows you a lot about like what people are searching for. And also, when we do this too, is like we look at SEO, like, but also the questions people ask around a product. So, like, trying to think of like a good example, well, yeah, I'm writing about white jeans right now. So I know that one popular question is like, how do I keep them clean? And so that could even be an angle, like if a brand, I don't know, has a product that like is good at like resisting stains or like is a cleaner, like they could be like, oh yeah, this is like a really popular search term and we have a product that fights that issue.
Ooh, that's very
So
compelling. That's a yes in my book.
yeah.
It's saying it's not like, oh, well, this is me saying to, put my product on there. It's what all these other internet people are searching for. So you have to cover it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like we look at that too. It's like what are people searching for about this product? And we also look at what other sites have written about something. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like kind
Yeah.
of like you gotta keep everything in mind, like the big
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah, and thinking creatively, like even if you don't do white jeans, it might be a white travel bag or a white bucket hat, and you can
Yeah.
relate it to what people are searching, which is stain fighting materials. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's always like a good angle too.
Yeah, let's get creative. Well, thank you so much, Emily. You have given us
Oh,
so many
thanks.
gems. You've talked to us about what you're looking forward to writing about. I know that it's going to be absolutely game changing advice. So, how can people find you? How can people read about what you're covering and what you're looking to write about this season?
Yeah, so you can, my Instagram, you can reach me there. It's just like at my name. So Emily Cieslak. And then I don't know, like my email, I have like my work email, but also like a personal email. So I don't know if that's going to be like linked in the podcast, but yeah, that's like a good way to pitch me and just reach out.
Yeah, and your Instagram is at Emily Cieslak as Cieslak.
Yes, right, correct.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show.